Hi everyone, welcome to the reading vlog. I'm gonna try my hand at like a weekday reading vlog, Monday through Friday. I don't really read a lot during the weekends, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. Currently Monday the 15th, the 15th. It's almost 4:30 in the afternoon. I did a lot of chores in the morning and then I cooked lunch for the family. Now I'm free to read. So I'm currently reading a like urban-y paranormal sapphic romance. I thought it was just like urban fantasy, but it's kind of like mafia vibes as well. One of our main characters kind of runs like this gang business organized crime thing. I don't quite know how to describe it. It's called Twisted Sorcery by Adler, and we follow a young woman who's been recently turned into a vampire like 2 months prior. This takes place in a kind of like a fictional, like, I get like Gotham City vibes. Like, it's called Midnight City, and there's a lot of like paranormal type creatures like minotaurs, and I think there's like a siren character, and obviously vampires, and our love interest is a witch. Our main character kind of down on her luck. She needs to do something, but people don't really hire vampires because they're kind of unpredictable. So the book kind of opens up with her like looking for some work. Prostitution comes up. Trigger warning for like the very beginning of the book. There's like an attempted SA scene. It doesn't go far. There's nothing too graphic on paper. But this is a sapphic romance. I don't really read like crime mafia type romances, but this is like the closest that I've gotten in like a while. I read like I forgot that author's name who writes really popular like mafia type stuff. But anyways, I'm having fun. I like the way the author writes. I looked at this author's like backlog and I don't think I can find anything else other than this. So that's unfortunate, but it seems to be the first in a series. So that's nice. Sorry about the dramatic shift in frame. The clip that I was editing got corrupted, but what I was trying to say, I'm enjoying that book. That's fine. I don't know what I'll read next. At the time, I didn't know what I was going to read next. I know what I'm reading now. If you didn't see my goals video, part of 2024, 2 goals that I wanted to address were wanting to read books with more meat to them. I love fun, rompy, paranormal, urban stories with a little bit of romance on the side that are like brain off books, but I want to read something more, you know, something with more grit to them, I guess. I don't know how else to explain that, but some of the books that I have are like The Night Circus, Sorcery. I could read another classic, but you'll see what book I pick up next. I have to like edit this in weirdly. Yes, another goal that I have for 2024 is to use Storygraph more, which I am. So yeah, I just thought I'd let you know. That's where the clip ended. Sorry for the random change, but I think the next clip I'm talking about is my thoughts on the book after I finished it. So it's currently Tuesday, about 4:30 in the afternoon, and I did finish the last read that I've been reading. I did really like it. I gave it like 3.5 stars. I posted on Goodreads and Storygraph about my thoughts, but essentially really fun. If this is a debut novel, the author really knows how to like flow, like make a story flow between like plot and character thoughts and dialogue and I will say that I needed a little more exploration of the setting. If this is going to be like an urban-y paranormal, that I stick with the, like, I love like my Mercy Thompsons and stuff like that. I would like a little more world fleshing out, because this takes place in a city called Midnight City, and like I said before, it's kind of like Gotham-y, Chicago. Like, it's pretty, but like seedy underbelly type. The neighborhoods are named after those like places in like the Greek afterlife, like Asphodel, Elysium, Tartarus, and I was like, oh cool, that's interesting, but we don't get much more than that other than it's like a cool city. We don't really get background as far as like the sirens and the vampires and the witches. Like, is it just like normal, like everyone is like some sort of magical being? Like, how does it work with like humans? Like, some background, have they always existed? I don't know. And I thought the first half was like pretty good at like building up this romance with like tense moments and like light touches and like stares, you know, like longing glances, that kind of thing. But the second half, because there's a plot that the author has to like deal with and go through, the romance was not as consistently good in my opinion, but that's something that happens in a lot of romances, not just this author's work. So yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. It was a nice like sapphic thing. Some trigger warnings. There are like I don't know if I mentioned, but there was an attempted rape scene in the beginning of the book. It is still like a sexual assault, so keep that in mind. It's not too graphic, but it exists. Also, as far as like sexual content, I'm really bad at like rating spice levels or whatever, but there's at least 2 scenes that are obvious, they're like explicit. This also does have like BDSM elements, which is not my thing personally. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just not something that I enjoy in my tastes. What I'm reading next is Windwitch by Susan Dennard. This is the second book in the Witchlands series, which I reread the first one last year, somewhat recently, because I need to finish series or catch up with them. I don't think the author's finished with the series yet, but I definitely need to catch up with them. This book, first of all, there is a recap chapters at the beginning, or at least the author does a good job at recapping what happened in the last book, in my opinion. Basically, the series follows a couple of characters, mostly 2 main characters. Their names are Isolt, I can't pronounce her name, and Safi, and they have different abilities. Safi's a truth witch. She knows when people are being deceptive, and then Isolt, I can't pronounce her name, I'm so sorry. She can see threads that connect people to each other. It's weird, but it's explained really cool. We mostly follow them. The entire continent is, for the moment, in a peace treaty. Some countries have better standing than others. Some are suffering more than others. But this peace treaty that's been on for about 20 years is about to expire. And a lot of people are really not wanting that peace treaty to be re-signed, and some people obviously want to maintain peace. So it's a very like political kind of let's see where the dominoes fall type of plot. There's not really a concise summary I think I can give more than that. And there is like a prophecy as well. You never know what's gonna happen next. Someone might get betrayed, murdered, I don't know. I'm about like 40 pages in, so yeah, not the best summary, but it's the second book in a series and I don't want to spoil anything. Oh, but it does have really great like best friends that are basically sister characters. Our 2 main female characters I love them. I adore them. Obviously some romances as well. This is a YA, and romances are everywhere in YA. I don't know if I'll finish this tonight, but I will try. So, update. I did finish Windwitch by Susan Dennard. I really enjoyed this installment. I'm giving it like 4.5 stars just because I had a good time. Do I like it better than the first one? I don't know. But this is definitely one of those books where people are going to be like, some readers might be like, oh, nothing happens, I'm bored. This definitely feels like one of those journey type books. There's not a lot of movement in characters. Most of the main characters that you want to see interact together are actually like separated from each other. Different parts of the country, that kind of, or different parts of the continent, that kind of thing. People are in different countries with different, threats. While that's happening, there's a lot of growth in the world, in the story, in the magic. So plot wise, not a lot of progression. Our 2 main characters are not in the same room at all ever. So yeah, but we learn a lot more and we see growth in characters. We see growth in relationships. We see new relationships form. My dog is moving stuff over there, sorry about that. But alliances, we see a character that was kind of a bitch in the first one. We see them in a whole perspective, which is always great. I love when like evil shitty people, you're like, oh, they're terrible, but then you like read the next book and you're like, wait a minute, kind of a redemption here. I love that. Yeah, this is more of like an emotional story character journey. It's more context, but I know readers don't like that, unfortunately, and that's okay. But I have a high tolerance for the nothing happens type books. I really do like them, and I know other people don't, and it's okay. I don't know what I'll read next. I'm thinking about it now as I talk to you, but I thought it would be really fun for these reading vlogs where I could recommend a K-pop song to match the vibe of the book or the message or something that aligns with the book. I think that would be cool. So for the first song, which was Twisted Sorcery, by Kira Adler. I would recommend Eyes Roll by G-Idol. G-Idol has a few songs that can be looked at with a sapphic lens. I don't think that's their intention, or maybe it is, but a lot of their songs read super sapphic, and I think eyes roll being like when your eyes roll to the back of your head in like a pleasurable way, that's like the meaning of the song. And obviously it was a very sapphic, spicy novel, so I think you should listen to that song to get in the mood for twisted sorcery. For this book, I decided to do I would recommend BB's Vengeance by BB. I feel like the message of that song could be attributed to a couple of the characters, but mostly one that I have in mind, Vivia. That's what I would recommend for Windwitch. But yeah, if you're not into K-pop, I will give you K-pop recommendations. I think that'd be fun. Also, started posting on TikTok on my Bookish TikTok. I started putting some stuff up there. I will link that in my socials now from now going on. What else? What should I read? Let me think about it. I'll be right back. Okay, back. I know what I'm gonna read. It's something that I started, was it last year or earlier this year. Skip Beat. I started rereading this because I absolutely love this manga series and I never caught up with it. I think I've only read up to like volume 12 and there's like 40 something, maybe more probably, by Yoshiki Nakamura. This is a very silly, lighthearted manga that also, this is about idols. Japanese idols, but like any K-pop song could really like go with this. But in this series, we follow our main character, Kyoko, and she is very young and she's had this crush on this boy for quite some time. From their like small rural town, they worked at an inn together, or his family owned an inn and she worked there. He wants to be a J-idol really badly, so he asks her like, hey, do you want to come to Tokyo with me to like help fulfill my dreams of being an idol? And she's like, yes, absolutely. She didn't even finish high school, so she went off to Tokyo and to support him financially. She's gotten like multiple jobs. She works at like stores and restaurants and blah blah blah. At some point she finds out that he's not that nice to her. Like, he talks shit behind her back and doesn't think highly of her. Knows that she's like desperately like in love with him, but he knows that and he's like using it against her. Anyways, she finds this out and she's obviously like heartbroken. Her like natural reaction is to stay on like anger, like the 5 stages of grief. She stays on anger and she decides to get revenge. And instead of like keying his car or like burning his shit or throwing it out of the apartment, she decides that she's gonna be a J-idol. And not only is she gonna be one, she's gonna be one at his rival company and be more famous than him. Very silly, kind of far-fetched concept, but that it's like manga. Like, what do you expect? And along the way, you know, she makes friends. She's also not very talented. I forgot to mention, she can't sing, she can't dance. She's not really good at anything. I mean, she's pretty, but like all idols are super pretty, so she doesn't really have anything going for her. And along the way, she makes friends, meets people, maybe becomes an interesting relationship forms between her and her ex-friends, like a rival idol, like the #1 most popular male idol in Japan. So very fun, lighthearted. I read the first volume like very recently, a few weeks ago, so I think I'm gonna hopefully finish like volumes 2 and 3 of this omnibus and I'll come back to you. A lot of different things we're reading, which I want my reading to be more varied this year. So yeah. So I only ended up doing 1 volume of Skip Beat because I don't want to like overwhelm myself and like read too much. And I don't know quite how to count manga in my like 100 books reading goal for the year. I do count them as reading because like why not, but I also don't want it to just be like a ton of manga and like calling it a day, because I do want a good chunk of those 100 books for my end of the year goal to be like varied, right? Not just like 100, you know, volumes or whatever. But I did read the second volume. Like I said before, I've read this before and I really enjoy it. I'm also still deciding how to like rate manga as a whole, because while some volumes are spectacularly done and are like really story-wise amazing, the art is amazing, as a whole, like sometimes there are volumes that they're gonna be a little filler, and that's okay, because for example, this is like has a ton of volumes, so some are going to be more dramatic than others. Not every part of a manga series is going to be this like explosive reveals or whatever. Sometimes we're going to get some of the boring parts of our journey from like the Shire to fucking dropping off the ring, you know what I mean? Like, not every moment's gonna be like 10 out of 10. So I feel like for manga, when I rate them on Goodreads or Storygraph, I'm gonna give it the rating that I would give the series as a whole, you know what I mean? Like, at the moment, Skip Beat for me is like basically a 4.5. We're just gonna round it up to a 5 because that's how much I enjoy it. So like every volume will get a 4.5 to 5 until my love for the series goes down or it stays consistent, whatever. Then the volumes as a whole will go down, you know what I mean, from that point on. I hope that kind of makes sense. But that's that. What else? For songs that I would recommend for this, since we're gonna do that song thing again, this is Japanese. Obviously mangas are Japanese, and I was recommending K-pop songs, but what I thought I could do was some K-pop groups have strong support in Japan, and they do have some success in that country as well. In particular, there's one group that has a very large fan base in Japan, and that's Twice, because when they debuted in 2015, they had a Japanese line, which was not super common at the time. That line was Momo, Mina, and Sana. Those are the Japanese members of Twice, very popular, and since then they've done like Japanese songs and even full Japanese albums specifically marketed for Japan. So I'm gonna recommend Mina, Momo, and Sana's. They had a subgroup called Misamo. It should have been called Mimosa, but it's called Misamo, and they had a Japanese debut last year, and it was really popular. And I'm gonna recommend Marshmallow by Misamo. It's a really cute song. I'm pretty sure the song is basically about a character who's experienced heartbreak, but she's like ready to move on, and it's gonna be like a bright day tomorrow, and that's basically this as well. So Marshmallow by Misamo is so good. The rap is so good, and I know people are like, oh, K-pop artists aren't good rappers, but Momo does a really good job in the song. So I recommend listening to that song to pair with Skip Beat. For what I'll read next, I wanted to read something not fantasy but also not super lighthearted, and more adult, since this is like younger shoujo, manga. I found this at the Goodwill, and I've never heard of this author. I've seen other people talk about her. I'm sure this author has other readers from other corners of the web, but this is City of Lies by Victoria Thompson, who's written other series. I think she wrote this author's written the Gas Lamp mystery series, I think is what it's called, or the Gaslight Mysteries. I believe this series is about a woman. Her name's Elizabeth, and I think she's kind of like a Robin Hood type figure. The summary says that Elizabeth uses her guile to relieve so-called respectable men of their ill-gotten gains. So I'm getting like Robin Hood vibes, maybe, I'm not sure. And then she kind of crosses one individual man, and he's like out to get her, and she's like on the run. That's what I got from it. So it seems like to be a historical setting, thriller vibes. We'll see if I like it or not. I've never read from this author. I've never heard anyone talk about them. I just found it at the Goodwill, and I thought the cover was really cool. So that's next. It's Friday, by the way, so we'll see what I finish by the end of today, and then I'll wrap up the vlog and have it uploaded soon. So unfortunately, I think I'm going to DNF City of Lies by Victoria Thompson. This is set in Washington in the 1910s. This takes place during World War I. There's mentions of people going off to war, so I'm assuming it's that one. It takes place in Washington. We follow a character named Elizabeth. She is a con woman, but just to con. In the first 50 pages, that's how far I got. We really didn't get much about our main character or her brother. She runs cons with her brother. We open up with her and her brother attempting a con on this individual, this man who's like not a great person either, but whatever, who cares? I understand like wanting to start off your story with like a bang, like dropped in the middle of this con, and it kind of all went down from there. I'm the last person to critique someone's writing, because that's the last thing that I worry about, whether or not like someone's style of writing is good or not. As long as I can understand what someone is saying and I'm having a good time, writing is the last thing I will ever talk about. I feel like I'm not quite knowledgeable on the craft to critique it. Not saying you have to be an author or a writer to critique someone's writing. You totally can. I just feel like I'm not confident enough in writing, the craft of writing, to talk about it personally for me. But this first 50 pages felt like the author had, like, you know how some authors have bullet points, like major plot points that they want to hit by chapter 10 or whatever. It felt like the author was trying to get to those points as fast as possible. There was very little time to kind of weave in like internal dialogue and other like background information and stuff. It was just a ton of dialogue and then like a few sentences here and there of like characters like physically like going from like point A to point B, going from location to location. It felt very rushed. By page 50, our main character, spoiler alert, is in jail. She was pretending to be a suffragette and she's been sentenced to 3 months in jail, and I don't know. It was just a lot so quickly. The writing was not for me. So I think I'm gonna put this down, put it in my giveaway pile or an unhaul. Probably gonna do an unhaul soon. It is historical fiction thriller, I guess. There's no mystery as far as I can see. Apparently there's a big romance that happens towards the other half of the book. I can't speak to whether it's good or not, but yeah, I got about like 16% of the way in. I'm not feeling it, so I'm not even gonna recommend a K-pop song for this. I have a feeling that this might be my last check-in of the vlog. But before I leave you, I will say that I'm going to be finishing the evening with The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This is a closed circle mystery thriller. I believe our main character gets invited to a wedding on a island somewhere off Ireland, and someone wants to kill someone. I've not heard the best things about Lucy Foley. Apparently this author is like hit or miss, but I just want something fun and, you know, thrilling, something that's not going to piss me off writing wise. So we'll see. Maybe I won't like the twist or whatever, I don't know. But if this is where I leave you, thank you so much for joining me on this first weekly vlog of 2024. I hope you enjoyed it. I will try to be back next week. Let's see how long I can keep up weekly vlogs. I think Monday through Friday is like a good time frame. Sorry for another jump cut, but I've been having problems with my footage lately. But thank you so much for watching. Feel free to talk to me down below in the comments about anything that I've talked about. I'd like to hear anything you have to say down below. I'll also link my social medias as well, some far more important links down below. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.